My computer is being exceptionally cranky tonight. I don't know what the problem is. It must be the weather.
Okay, we are on the recording. The recording has started and the live stream also has started, just so you know. And we just admitted, I believe, everybody from the waiting room. Sorry for the delay, everyone.
Good evening.
Right, so-
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Let's see. So I got me, Joe, Tom.
There we go.
Did I see?
Okay, I got you.
Did I see Bill in here?
If I could just ask, if you're not a commission member, if you could please mute yourself. We'll let you know when you can speak. Thank you so much.
Did I see Bill Guerrera in here before?
Bill
I don't see
is-
him now.
He was in, let's see. It was Bill's iPhone, I believe was what it was in under.
It's not there anymore. Hang on one second before I start the meeting.
He might be coming back in. And here comes Bill. And not sure what's going on with my phone. Somehow we're having some technical difficulties, everybody. Thank you for bearing with us.
I see Bill. All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May regular meeting of the Thomaston Planning and Zoning Commission. Seated for tonight's meeting will be Joe Hartz, Tom Mueller, Bill Guerrera, and myself, Ralph Salone. And I don't see any other commission members here, so that'll be it. First on our agenda is a public hearing on a special permit application number 2021-03-01-01 per section 21.10 for an existing accessory apartment at 24 Cedar Mountain Road in an RA 80 zone. And are the applicants here? I see a Robert Warner. You want to unmute them, Stacy?
Sure. Okay, wait a minute. Elizabeth is entering the meeting room just right now, just so you know. Okay, Mr. Warner, if you could unmute.
And just for the record, we'll also see Elizabeth Jamison.
Hi,
at this
thank
point
you.
in time.
Sorry I'm late. I had trouble with power.
We all seem to have been having difficulties tonight. You're not alone.
Oh,
Mr. Warner, if you could unmute. And Mrs. Warner, if you're here as well, please feel free to unmute.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Very
yes.
good. So Stacy, did you get a chance to make sure this meets all the requirements?
Yes, I did. Bear with me one moment. I'll pull it back up. I did send around today for everybody's reading pleasure. A brief review of all the pending applications. And I'm just going to put it up right now.
Yeah.
There you go. So in regards to the application for 24 Cedar Mountain Road, just as we discussed last month as background, this was a previous, the apartment has been there for quite some time, had not obtained official approval. Mr. Warner is the son of the former property owner and just trying to do what he needs to do to make the apartment official. And just item by item per the general conditions of the regulation, the garage maintains the appearance of the main unit. I can put up the picture from the assessor's page showing that it's continuous, the house, and then a
That's-
breezeway, and
yeah.
then and then the garage with the
That's-
apartment over it.
That's down the road from my house. I can attest that that's correct.
The apartment is located above the existing garage, and a roofed partially enclosed breezeway deck area connects the main house to the garage. The property owner does live in the primary dwelling unit. As far as whether it's the requirement currently is an attached unit. The breezeway is partially enclosed. I believe it's sufficient, and I also did just want to remind the commission that they are considering an amendment to the regulations to allow detached, but I just wanted to point that out. Per the sketches submitted by the applicant, there's access at the rear of the house. And per the sketches submitted by the applicant, there is only one bedroom. I did the calculations, and according to the GIS, the apartment square footage is 750 square feet total. Without the bathroom and closets included, it's approximately 700 square feet. The main house is 1710 square feet without the partially enclosed breezeway, 2160 with it. The size of the apartment itself in relation to the entire home meets the regulation. And the layout of the apartment shows that there's a full kitchen and bath. The property is not connected to town sewer. Mr. Warner has obtained Torrington Area Health District approval for the apartment. All utilities, except for the electric, are on a combined meter with the main house. There's one electrical connection that comes into the property. Individual meters are on the side of the house. But this was built this way back 30 years ago. And then again, if you needed to see the aerial, there is ample room that meets the parking requirements. And then I didn't know if Mr. Warner had anything he wanted to add.
I just wanted to say that, the whole time my father had the apartment there, he built it originally for my aunt to live there, and she lived there for over 12 years until she passed away. Ever since then, I've had a friend of his has been living there ever since. So he's been there probably another 10 years now. So it's not like it's a apartment where people are coming and going all the time. It's, the same people. Everybody likes it there. There's no issues. And that's about it. It's low key.
Does any member of the commission have any questions, comments, or concerns on this issue?
No concerns, but how does the health district evaluate a situation like this? I saw the health district approval, but is that when it's not on sewer? I'm just curious, just for future reference. Is it a case by case that they approve it, or is there a?
Well, they would have the septic system information on file that was approved for the house. And so basically they do an evaluation whether or not the size of the septic system is adequate for the amount of bedrooms that are now in the house, particularly now given that there is an apartment.
So it's
and
case by
this-
case.
It is case by case, and in a situation like this where it's after the fact, there's also proof of its sufficiency and the fact that it's been this way for 30 years and there
Oh,
hasn't
right.
been an issue.
Yep, that makes sense.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns from a commission member?
Yeah, question regarding the two electric meters. If you have a multi-unit apartment building, there's typically one electrical connection to that building and then individual meters afterwards. That kind of doesn't meet the definition of combined utilities. If there's separate electrical connections, then separate electrical meters, then there are two electrical connections. One to the building and then it's split afterwards. Is that a deal breaker in the regulation?
Well, there's one main electrical line coming in and then the 2 meters are right next to each other. And one breaks off for the apartment and one is for the main house.
I understand.
And it would be that same type of setup if this were a regular apartment building with 10 or 15 units in it. There'd be one feed to the building with 10 or 15 meters.
Hmm.
I guess, is that a question of how the regs stand today versus how the
Well-
apartment exists today?
Well, really, that's all we can go by, I think. We have to make a decision based on the regulations that are in place.
Mhm.
We can't assume that something will be changed in the future.
And is
It's
it,
been that way for over 30 years.
so I'm trying to understand, is that like from the street to the house and then it splits in the house, or?
So
does-
let me
Street?
explain.
I'm
Yeah,
not good with the whole.
let me try to explain it. So there's one drop that goes from the street to the house. And then,
One line.
one line goes from the street to the house. And then there's the meter panel. That meter panel has 2 meters.
Yeah.
That one line goes to the single meter panel with 2 meters in it. And from the meter point outward, or onward rather, one goes to the main house, one goes to the accessory apartment.
And our regs say there has to be 1 meter for both.
Yeah.
It would be possible to issue an approval with a condition involved.
Yeah, so Stacy is correct. Going beyond that,
Hmm.
it is possible to rewire the apartment, or the metering system, if you will, so that both the house and the garage go off of the same meter. The applicant would just have to hire an electrician to do it, and the electrician would have to pull a permit and all the other red
Oh.
tapey kind of stuff. But
And that's the only item they would have to, other than that, they comply with everything else.
My opinion.
yeah, that I believe that's true. Yeah.
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I mean, is it really necessary? It's just, I mean.
Well, it's a question of it meets the regs or it doesn't meet the regs. It's a very black and white kind of thing. It's either you're in or you're out. And
So the other thing that doesn't meet it is that there's no actual direct interior access, according to what Stacy has put in her document.
Let me pull up a picture.
if you pulled it up, we're not seeing it.
I'm getting it right now.
Oh, okay.
One second, it's taking its sweet time here. Okay, so this is from the town GIS. So obviously the main house is here. The apartment is here. This is the covered, partially enclosed breezeway here. And the door in is inside here.
Oh. So that's like a matter of how we define that.
Direct interior access, yes. What have I got here? Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
They
I
are
was
both, the
confused.
doors are inside the breezeway covered. Partial walls on the front and the rear.
I don't know. I personally would have a hard time calling that an interior space, though. Mr. Warner, is there any great hurry to bring this into compliance? I mean, are you are you looking to sell the house or something?
No,
No, they responded immediately to my discussion with them, and that discussion occurred prior to the commission's review of the possible changes to the accessory apartment regs. I suppose it's conceivable that the application could be put on hold.
Yeah, but it can't be put on hold indefinitely, right? We have clocks that are ticking that we have to act
Clocks.
on, right?
Clocks are ticking, but maybe if they wanted to withdraw and reapply under the amended regulations, if that does ultimately wind up happening.
So, Mr. Warner,
Yep.
it's been like this for 30 years.
right.
And to my knowledge, no one has complained about it. Right? How did this get in front of us, Stacy?
I don't know how this ever got in front of you, to be honest with you. I'm wondering if maybe because I did a refinance for the house maybe 6 months ago or something, and they did a full appraisal so I don't know if that's
I'm
how
not
it came
aware
to
of,
light.
yeah, I'm not aware of anybody asking for information that way. This has been in my enforcement files since I started here. That's where the
is really
dialogue began.
surrounded by relatives here.
And like I said, they immediately contacted me and to do what they needed to do to make this appropriate.
Stacy, if the amended regulations go through with allowing a detached accessory apartment, would they be likely to include the possibility of separate utility connections?
You may recall, maybe not, that was a section of the draft that I had in blue, meaning for the commission to discuss. I think I do understand the commission's reasons for wanting the combined, but it's kind of going to be something open to interpretation for you guys in terms of whether or not that's acceptable.
Mr. Warner, I think it would be a lot easier on you if you were to withdraw this application and wait until after we get done reviewing the subordinate apartment regs. It might be financially advantageous for you to do that.
I have no problem with that. I mean,
There's
I
not
got
going
no
to be any
intentions on
issue
doing
from,
this anyways.
there's
Like-
not going to be
like I-
any issue from an enforcement angle or anything else like that. I know you're working with us, Mr. Warner.
And
I don't need to be putting out any extra money. I really don't need to, you know what I mean?
And honestly, down that end of the road, I think there's more farm animals living there than people.
There are, and that's my relatives.
Yeah. So I don't see any complaints coming forth on this. And again, it's been this way for 30 years. Another few months aren't going to make any difference.
Agreed.
Ralph, another possibility would be an approval with a compliance timetable. And the compliance timetable could be out a year, 18 months. And that compliance could then be by complying with amended regulations when they happen.
That's true.
But we don't really know what the final amended regulations may look like.
That's correct.
And
And the worst case is if the regulations don't change, then they might have to do something to bring it into compliance with what's in effect at the time.
And if the regulation becomes less strict over time, then they no longer have to do that.
Correct.
well, I'm open to that. That seems like it might keep everybody happy. And get it taken care of sooner rather than later. So, Mr. Warner, if you were to make that compliant with the current regs as they are on the books now, you'd have to hire an electrician to get rid of that second meter, and you would have to fully enclose that breezeway, and that's none of that's going to be free.
No, and that's going to actually devalue my house, because I mean that breezeway is one of the appealing things of the house.
I know, and I
it's
see
nice
you have cookouts there and stuff like that on it too, so you would lose
Yeah.
that ability. So if you could roll the dice, so to speak, and we could issue a conditional approval that says that you have to be compliant with whatever regs are in effect, like a year out from now, or 18 months or 10 months, whatever we come up with, and perhaps by that time, what doesn't fit the regs now may fit within the regs, and you wouldn't have to do any extra work. The only chance you're taking is if that the regs don't change substantially, you would still be you'd still be in the same boat you're in now.
Right. And I mean, I think as far as the entranceway goes, I mean, that's kind of subjective, isn't it?
You mean the breezeway?
Yeah.
I suppose you could argue the point that it is subjective, but I personally would have a hard time calling that an interior space.
Mhm.
There's a bunch of other members on the commission. They may feel differently, but I don't know, Joe, what do you feel about some kind of conditional approval for future?
Thanks for asking. I think that's a little bit more convoluted than I would want to get into.
But not as convoluted as some of the things we've done in the past.
And in terms of the entrance to the accessory apartment being an interior or exterior entrance, what was the ordinance language when we had a breezeway connecting one building to another? How would you have an interior entrance on some sort of a breeze or roof from one building to another? Do you understand my question, Ralph?
Yeah, I do understand your question, but I don't have an answer for it.
So, because in some of the situations we've looked at, two buildings are connected, but they certainly aren't interior doors. Or maybe that bridge needs to be fully enclosed. Is that what that states?
Well, we
So
don't
I
have a
think-
definition for breezeway, so where would this be?
I think if that was fully enclosed, then it could be termed to be a room as part of the main house. In which case, then there's a direct interior access from the accessory apartment to the main house.
Okay.
But I think the fact that it's not fully enclosed is what's kind of
Right.
giving us a little heartburn. Elizabeth, what's your opinion?
I view it as, put it simply, I guess, sort of delaying our decision in the sense of, putting, too many details on it now. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I understand we're not gonna know the outcome later of our regs, and it could be a gamble for the owner's part, but I feel like, I don't think it's a detriment. I feel like it's something, I feel like this is also part of a learning exercise for us to learn, how to define things in our future regs. A lot of these questions come up. So I don't have a problem with it. I view it as sort of like, it's not a delay in the decision. We're making the decision today if we want, but that's how I view it. And there's a potential for things to change in the future, and no one knows the future. So I don't think it's a bad thing, too convoluted. There could just be some condition to be met in the future. And if that involves a power, or if that involves, something, I don't think it's a bad thing. I feel like it's a learning exercise, and I just kind of view it as I think it's simpler in a way, because I feel like we're learning from it. We have pieces to put together for our future reg. So that's about it. I don't think it's a bad thing to make a decision based on a future outcome of whatever comes out of it.
So you're amenable to issuing an approval with
An
some
approval.
conditions now?
Based on, yeah, ultimately, because I think there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of unique situations we've had to deal with, and here's another one, and I'm fine with that.
Thanks.
And Ralph, to be clear, I wouldn't object if we decided to go forward with conditions.
Okay, I'm just going for a temperature check. That's all.
Yeah.
And how about Mr. Guerrera? Bill, you want to weigh in on this?
Well, nothing to weigh in on that others haven't expressed. I agree with Elizabeth.
If you're still talking, Bill, we can't hear you. I'm not sure. It seemed like it cut off abruptly.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry. I agree with Elizabeth.
Okay. Well, this is a public hearing, so let me open it up and see if any members of the public have any questions or comments. If the members of the public would use the raise your hand function to let us know you do have a question. There's a button in the upper right that you can click to indicate you're raising your hand. Or if you have your camera turned on, you can actually raise your hand.
There's also the chat feature you can use and let
That's
us know
true.
that way.
Yes. You can always let us know you have a comment through chat. Well, I don't see a whole bunch of members of the public knocking down the doors to comment on this. I guess I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this point.
Tom Mueller, so moved.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion?
Joe Hart, second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, let's see. Tom Mueller, how do you vote on the motion?
Tom Mueller, aye.
Joe Hartz, how do you vote on the motion?
Joe Hart's aye.
And Elizabeth Jamison, how do you vote on the motion?
Elizabeth Jamison, aye.
And Bill Guerrera, how do you vote on the motion to close the public hearing?
Bill Guerrero, aye.
And Ralph Salone also votes aye. So the public hearing is closed unanimously. Stacy?
Okay.
Would you folks care to act on this now, or do you want to wait till later on in the meeting, or?
Go ahead and act on it.
I'm good.
We can act on it.
So I guess someone would have to make a motion that we would approve this application with the conditions that it meets whatever requirements are in effect at some future point in time that would have to be specified as part of the motion.
If I may.
You may.
I think it would probably be best to be worded that it needed, subject to the condition of enclosing and making the electric meter compliant with the pertinent regs at the time. The reason
Yeah.
I'm saying, well, I'm just saying because that's what the regs are right now. So those are the two conditions right now. Obviously, if you change the regs later, then in a way that makes that moot, then that's no longer something they have to meet.
Right.
Okay,
So
Tom
you're
Mueller,
saying hold them to it, but not today. Hold it, whatever that piece of it is in the future. Is that what you?
Yeah, if you wanted to give a time period for them to comply with the electric meter issue and the enclosure of the porch in whatever time period you think is appropriate. And then if in the interim, the commission was to vote to amend their regulations in such a way that this condition was no longer necessary, it would just no longer be the case.
So I think we have to actually put a date on it, you know, January 1st or June 6th or whatever.
that could be a period of time from right now too, Ralph.
That's true.
All right, Tom Mueller, I'll make a motion to grant special permit number 2021-03-01-01 for an existing accessory apartment at 24 Cedar Mountain Road with the conditions that the breezeway be completely enclosed and the electric meters be combined into one meter within a period of not to exceed 18 months from today's date.
That sounds pretty good to me. Does anyone care to second that motion?
I'll second it as long as I understand it. Does that mean if that's the regulation at that time? Otherwise, it doesn't matter.
Well, what it is, what Tom, as I understand it, he's making the approval conditional on those two things that don't meet the current regs.
Yep.
To be done within 18 months' time. Now, if in the next 18 months, you should all vote to amend your regs in a way that makes those 2 points moot,
That's still, okay.
they won't have to do it.
Okay, no, I will second that. I understand. Okay, perfect.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion?
No,
All right, Tom Mueller, how do you vote on the motion?
Tom Mueller, aye.
Joe Hartz, how do you vote?
Joe Hart's aye.
Elizabeth Jamison, how do you vote?
Elizabeth Jamison, aye.
And Bill Guerrera, how do you vote?
Bill Gerber, aye.
And Ralph Salone also votes aye. So the motion passes unanimously, and good luck, Mr. Warner.
okay.
Mr.
thank
Warner,
you.
I
Yep.
will, we can speak tomorrow if you have any questions.
Sure, okay. Thanks, Stacy.
Thank you.
Let's see. Next on our agenda is a special permit application number 20. I'm sorry, it's a public hearing for a special permit application number 2021-03-31-01 per section 21.10 for an accessory apartment at 154 Baum Drive in an RA 80 residential zone. And the applicant is Susan Del Bono. And when we spoke with you last month, Ms. Del Bono, you were proposing some very extensive renovations. Do you have you been able to get all the documentation together that you need for this meeting?
Can you hear and see me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I handed it in today.
I'm just
Very-
trying to pull it up right now. Hang on.
I'm glad you were able to do that. I really had my doubts you're going to get it done that quick.
No problem. And I don't know what you mean by very extensive, just rather simple to me, but
Well, you were replacing a whole wall on the front of the house, weren't you? If I recall.
no,
Well-
the apartment, of course, would be adjacent to, so that that wall that already exists will be the inside of the apartment wall. We'll be sharing that wall. Some things will have to change, of course, but
Here, hang on one.
I
I
didn't
will.
think of it as extensive.
Okay, here we go. This is Mrs. Del Buono put together some information for us. And to kind of help give a visual, because we don't have an actual architectural of what it's going to look like, but she did provide this, then I think it does do the job. This is the existing home. And the addition is going to come out this way. So this, the slope of the roof and everything is going to be consistent with what's there. And in her write-up, which I will put right here, you can see right here that the apartment is using the existing design of the contemporary A-frame structure. So with that, we kind of have an idea what the outside's going to look like. And here is when I give you, hang on one second. Okay, this is the foundation. The first floor. This is the connection, and interrupt me at any point, Ms.
No,
Del
you're
Buono.
right. You got it.
This is the door to the existing house.
Yes,
This is the first floor of the proposed addition that's over that porch area. And
correct.
this is where the kitchen would be. There would be stairs to an upper level. This is like a living room area.
Right.
And this is the second floor. And once again, there's another door into the interior house. And here's where the bathroom would be.
Right.
And the stairs coming up, and here is the open bedroom. This was, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Del Buono, this was put together by your contractor?
Correct.
Okay. She's also proposing a deck outside. There was only one thing I noted on here, and I've already talked with Ms. Del Buono about, is that this is the connection to the house.
No,
There's a
yeah, that's the connection to the house.
to the
but-
house. This is the, there's a door, there's going to be an exterior door here for the apartment to the porch because they're building a new porch since she's going to be losing a porch.
Right.
So this is where a door is coming out. Now, this does call for an exterior door to the parking area. However, that's at the front of the building. So in order to be compliant with the regs, I had explained to Ms. Del Buono that the door could not be located here. It would have to be to the side or to the rear. And she agreed. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Del Buono, but she agreed that she would do what was necessary for the,
Well, of course, I'll do what
Compliance.
is necessary, but my big concern in having two doors on the first floor is fire safety. When if there is a fire blocking both of the doors on the right-hand side, and you can't get out of either door, I want an exit on the other side of the building. It is natural flow, bringing your groceries in, where your vehicle's parked, you're gonna have to walk around the woods to, and the dog kennel to get to the door if it's the door that's adjacent to the porches. Just unnatural flow. And I just don't understand what's the concern for not allowing a safety door and
well,
a
there is,
groceries indoor.
you do have two doors. And in fact, in your case, you'd have three doors because there's two into the interior and then there would be the one off the porch and you could build a set of steps off the porch. The reason for the not at the front of the building is because, again, the whole point of an accessory apartment is that it is smaller and unobtrusive and in comparison to the main
Subordinate
building.
to.
Exactly, to the main residential unit. The desire when creating an accessory apartment regulation is to have something that is smaller than the regular unit rather than, for example, say something that looks like an obvious two-family.
Okay, the way the house is positioned, even when we purchased it, the owner that we purchased it from, Michael Fabrizio, couldn't decide what the front of that building is, and he put the parking lot on basically the side of the building. And so we have to walk around to either side of the house to get in. The opposing side of the house has, will be the only door used to get in now, and that will be the front door, if that's making sense to you. You can see the A-frame part that's adjacent to where the cars are. There's no door there. You don't come in the front of that building. So the only door you'd see from in the new apartment from the front of the building is that one door. So it kind of negates that concern from my view.
So, Ms.
And
Del Bono,
again,
are you saying there's, where I have the arrow right
Correct.
now, there's no door
no
here?
door, no door. You got to go around to either of the side porches to get in the house. Just, I got to promise you, it's just not a good flow, which I was trying not to repeat. And the way the flow would go is if you get your groceries and you'd walk in the door and your kitchen would be on the left. That's just a good flow. What you're proposing, if I have to only have one door, and I'll do that, I'm happy to comply with your needs. But we literally would have to walk around the yard, and basically go way around a bunch of trees and bushes to get to that back door. It's
So,
weird.
so one thing,
Yeah.
you can have as many doors there as you want. You just can't
Oh.
have them on the front.
Okay. But how do you define what the front is on this house? I mean,
Actually, we have front and rear yards defined in the regs.
oh, okay. What makes it a front or a rear for me? I don't know these things. I'm sorry.
Stace, you want to pull that wording up?
Sure. Okay. Hang on 1 second. Bear with me.
Not at all.
Okay, the front yard is let's see, a front yard abuts the street on which the property is addressed according to the Town of Thomaston Assessor's Office. An open space extending across the full width of a lot and lying between the street line of the lot and the nearest facing wall of a principal building.
Okay, so, so
So
actually,
that,
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
that would
please.
seem to be this. This is the nearest facing wall. This one right here.
That one right there is the nearest facing wall to the street, you mean?
It would seem that way, yes.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, you could definitely argue that, but I won't. Okay. And if we were to consider when you look at the extension, the if we made the front of that, are we talking the front of my existing house or the front of the apartment house where the doors can and cannot go?
It has to all be the front, the same front.
Okay, because the front is on the left-hand side of the house where the
So
doors
you
are
come,
placed
you're saying
already.
you come over here to come in.
Yeah, either way, either that door, which I will not have access to anymore, or the door on the other side of the other stick out. The same stick out exists on the other side of the A-frame, and that also has a door. So there's two doors on both stick outs. That's the only way you can get into the house.
So one could, if I'm understanding you correctly, one could kind
Yeah.
of say it's almost a reverse, whereas normally the front, the main house is the one
Yeah.
with the door at the front, and the apartment is the one at the side. You would
Yep.
be in a situation where the apartment is the one at the front and the main house is the door at the side.
Yeah, it's very tricky because it's a weird shaped house, and the way the guy set it up, who created it, he made a problem.
And I just
So
wanted to note for
Yeah,
the record.
hold on, let's just note that Bill Guerrero dropped out of the meeting.
At 7:49.
Thank you.
Okay. The door that is on the side with the porches, not the side where the driveway is. I could put that door, which is your access to the porches, on the side of the house that is near the horse pasture I wrote. On the design, it is where the new porch will be going. So I could stay in that corner and go put the door on the next corner. I wish I had a little arrow for you, but if you go to the exterior door near the porch, to the porches. If you bring that's the interior.
Oh,
I'm
okay,
sorry.
here, okay.
Yeah, that one. If I bring it around the corner, right next to it, if you do an out, no, the other way. Yes. that
Oh, okay,
wall.
you're saying
Yeah,
along the
right.
back.
I could do that as well, if that makes life better, more correct.
Well, so this would be at the back then, is what you're saying.
I could do that as well, easily. That one's an easy switch, if I can have both doors. And
okay, wherever you put this one, if it's on the side or if it's on the rear, that's not going to be an issue. It's just,
okay,
this is the only one under discussion.
If we define the side that your arrow's on right now,
All right, listen, look, instead of trying to redesign this in the meeting, why don't we just continue the public hearing to our next meeting? And you can come back with a revised set of prints for us. How's that?
oh my gosh, it's painful. My daughter that I'm doing this for is having cancer surgery tomorrow. I'm in a hurry to get this done. I need to give her a home that's stable and quiet. It's going to be a long, hard process, and I don't want to make it any longer or harder if it's possible.
Yeah, but I don't think it's fair to us or fair to anyone in the community to try to, again, design this during a meeting. I think you need to come to us with a set of complete prints of what you intend to do.
Okay, we're
And
talking
if
about,
if we had a vote on these the way it stands now, they don't meet the regs. So I think it's in your best interest to just go back and sit down and come up with what you really want to do that does meet the regs, and then present it to us. And maybe the thing to do is not drop them off with Stacy the day of the meeting. You know, give her a week or so to look them over, to let you know if there's going to be any issues like this one door that we see now.
I can negate the door and live without a door more than I can live without making a home extension for my daughter as soon as possible. So if you want me to take a door away, I'll take a door away. Even though what I was trying to discuss was the position of the house and what defines the house as a rear or a front wall, not redesign the whole plan,
Again, that's defined very succinctly in our regs.
which I'm not experienced with. I apologize. I am a grand inquisitor and I'm trying to learn. So that's why I was asking. I apologize.
Can I ask for clarification? This isn't an either or thing though, either, right? There's options. It doesn't have to be one way or the other. There can be.
There's plenty of options. It's just that we can't go through all of them during the meeting. You know, we have
I
to
agree.
have a design goal in front of us.
Well, can I ask what the commission's thoughts are on what I said earlier in terms of the fact that typically the main house has the door at the front and the apartment has the side entrance, and under the proposal that Ms. Del Buono has right now, the main house has the side door and the apartment has the front. So the net effect is the same, that there is only one door at the front.
So
I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
Val, but if you're asking, I'm confused. And I do need a clean set of drawings, and it should
Okay.
be compliant with the regs. And there's just been too much moving back and forth. So add that to the confusion of the way the house is situated on the lot. And I don't even know what anybody's saying right now.
And the spirit of the regs is that we want to maintain the semblance of a single family dwelling, even though there may be multiple families residing in them. So, you know, we can always lean more towards the spirit of the regs rather than the actual wording of the regs. But I really gotta echo what Joe said. We need a clean set of prints in front of us that are really a kind of almost a finalized set of design goals.
You're talking actual architecturals?
No, these would be okay if there weren't so many moving pieces in the picture at the moment.
Okay, because this really is the only outstanding question. Everything else, the size of even with 2 floors, the size complies. The Torrington area is underway.
Well, let's see, Tom Mueller, what's your, can I get a temperature check on you?
Well, there's an offer on the table to remove that exterior door. So again, that could be a condition of approval if we so choose to do that. And I would go along with that part. I do have a question on something else, though.
Now would be a good time to bring it up.
Yeah, there's already a caretaker's apartment,
Yes.
which is just another name for an accessory apartment. do the regs allow 2 or multiple accessory apartments,
I actually,
family home?
when Ms. Del Buono first contacted me about her desire to construct this, I actually did speak with the commission's attorney, and it was his assessment that since they're listed separately on the use table in the zoning regs, that they are 2 separate items and therefore could both be applied for.
Okay. So I would be agreeable to an conditional approval with that exterior door being removed from the plans and removed from the construction.
Okay. Elizabeth, what do you think?
Same logic. That's why I asked if it was either or and if there's options. I feel like if that's the only thing that's holding us up from a decision, it could be easily made, conditioned.
And Joe, I saved the best for last. What do you think after hearing what Tom and Elizabeth had to say?
Well, I really appreciate the conversation. So, if there's some clarity brought into what we're approving, then I would conditionally approve it.
Okay. So it's a public hearing. I want to open it up to the public, but before I do that, I want to make sure that any commission member has their any questions or concerns adequately addressed. So does any member of the commission have any additional comments or concerns they want to bring up?
Well, just with regard to the other accessory use apartment regs where there's a single electrical feed coming into the house, like the prior case, is that all in compliance here?
The Torrington area review is underway, and Ms. Del Buono, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Everything will be constructed with the electrical and any other pertinent utilities all on the same meter as the main house, correct?
Absolutely.
And this is a well and septic, right? This is not city sewers or city water, right?
Correct.
So really, it's only electric, Joe.
Okay, good.
Okay, well, with that, I'll open it up to the public and see if there is any public comment on this. And again, use the raise your hand function or wave at us or use the chat function. Excuse me, chat function to let us know you have a comment.
I am not seeing anyone indicating.
Yeah, nobody's breaking down the doors. All right, so there not being any public comment, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing. I just want to caution everyone that once we do close the public hearing, we cannot bring in any new evidence. So make sure all your questions are answered first.
I'm sorry to be to repeat the question. Where will the door be located?
If the motion is made this way, my understanding is that it would be a motion to approve with the condition that the door at the front be removed from the plans.
Thank you.
And wherever Ms. Del Buono, I mean, it's here right now. I know that she talked maybe putting it back here. Either one of these would certainly be acceptable.
So does anyone want to make a motion to close the public hearing, or you want to keep going at this?
Tom Mueller, so moved.
Is there a second to the motion?
Elizabeth Jameson, second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, Tom Mueller, how do you vote?
Tom Mueller, aye.
Joe Hartz, how do you vote?
Joe Hart's aye.
Elizabeth Jamieson, how do you vote?
Elizabeth Jamieson, aye.
And Ralph Salone also votes aye. So Stacy, the public hearing is unanimously closed.
Okay.
Would we like to take action on this now?
Sure.
Tom Mueller, I make a motion to approve the special permit application number 2021-03-31-01 per section 21.10 for an accessory apartment at 154 Baum Drive, with the condition that the exterior door on the front of the addition be removed and not installed.
That seems pretty good to me. Is there a second to the motion?
Joe Hart's will second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? That doesn't count. Tom Mueller, how do you vote?
Tom Mueller, aye.
Joe Hartz, how do you vote?
Joe Hart's aye.
Elizabeth Jamieson, how do you vote?
Elizabeth Jamieson, aye.
And Ralph Salone also votes aye. So the motion to approve with conditions passes unanimously. Good luck, Ms. Del Bono.
Thank you very much.
You can give me a call tomorrow if you'd like.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have a public hearing for a special permit application number 2021-04-01-01 per section 21.10 for an existing accessory apartment on 24 Edwin Lane in an RA 80 zone, and the applicant is Bernard McCann. And I see the applicant is here. What do you got for us, Stacy?
Okay, so referring back to my paperwork that I'm going to try and pull up again. Too many windows open here. Okay. So you will recall that I had explained at last month's meeting that the apartment facilities were installed by the previous owner, whom I had sent enforcement notices to that were unanswered. I had sent again to the new owner, Mr. McCann, and he responded, and we had discussed over the course of several months different options to bring the property into compliance. And while he does not intend to use the basement as an accessory apartment, he did nonetheless opt to apply for an accessory apartment special permit in order to be able to keep both the full bath and the kitchen. So he submitted the application and the floor plan that I have up or had up. So just to briefly review, the apartment is within the existing house. So the appearance is of a single family dwelling. It is not detached. The property owner does live on site in the main unit. There is direct interior access. There is, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. McCann, there's a door at the top of the stairs that is locked.
Correct.
Okay. There is access, and I have pictures from the realtor.com website. There's access at the rear of the house via 2 sliding doors. There is only 1 bedroom. According to the sketch submitted in the assessor's card, the total finished basement space is 740 square feet. The main house, based on the first floor loan, we had 1,730 square feet. The size of the apartment itself and in relation to the entire home meets the regulation. There is a full kitchen and bathroom. The property is connected to town sewer. The owner has paid the required connection fee to the Water Pollution Control Authority. And all utilities are supplied to the apartment via the main dwelling unit. There are no separate meters, and there are ample facilities for parking.
Stacy, that seems pretty cut and dried. I wonder why the previous owner never responded to you.
I don't know.
It would have cost them money.
Yes, poor
Oh,
Mr.
could
McCann
be,
has
yeah.
had to deal with a few things,
Mhm.
tying up a few loose ends, including this one.
Um, it looks like everything is within our regs. Does any member of the commission have any questions, comments, or concerns? Well, why don't I open it up to the public then? Does any member of the public wish to comment on this application? And reminder, use the chat, raise your hand, wave at us in the camera, whatever.
And I am not seeing anything.
Yeah, me neither. All right, so at this point, I would entertain a
Oh, wait a
motion
minute.
to.
I just got something.
Oh, I am concerned, from Doreen F to everyone. I'm concerned with the ample parking. First of all, Doreen F, your full name and address, please. And then we can go from there.
I will pull up the aerial of the property. Okay.
And it's Doreen French from 31 Edwin Lane.
Okay, so this is 24 Edwin Lane right here. This is Mr. McCann's driveway. As you can see right now, there are 2 cars here. There's ample room over here for 2 more cars. The regulations require 2 spots for the main dwelling unit, 1 spot for the apartment. So that would be 3 total. And as you can see, there's more than enough.
So that definitely meets the requirement.
Yes.
Does any other member of the public have any questions or comments? I'm not seeing any. So at this point, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Tom Mueller, so moved.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a second to the motion?
Joe Hart, second.
Thank you, Joe. Any discussion on the motion? Tom Mueller, how do you vote?
Tom Mueller, aye.
Joe Hartz, how do you vote?
Joe Hart's aye.
Elizabeth Jamison, how do you vote?
Elizabeth Jamison, I.
And Ralph Salone also votes aye. The public hearing is unanimously closed. Do we wish to take action on this now?
Tom Mueller, I make a motion to approve special permit number 2021-04-01-01 for section 21.10 for an existing accessory apartment at 24 Edwin Lane.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a second to the motion?
Elizabeth Jamison, second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? Tom Mueller, how do you vote?
Tom Mueller, aye.
Joe Hartz, how do you vote?
Joe Hart's aye.
Elizabeth Jamison, how do you vote?
Elizabeth Jamison, I.
And Ralph Salone also votes aye. So the motion is approved unanimously. Good luck, Mr. McCann.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So Mr. McCann, you'll be getting some stuff in the mail from us in probably within a week or 2.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So on to our regular meeting. We have next on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the April 7th meeting.
And Mr. Chairman, I did just want to remind you that I had noted that we had received a site plan application for new signage at 76 Watertown Road.
Is that on the agenda?
It wasn't on the agenda. It's very straightforward.
All right, let's stick with the agenda for now, so I
Okay,
don't get confused. You know how easily that happens.
not a problem.
So I'm looking at the meeting packet, and I see the minutes that are attached are entitled the minutes of the March meeting.
Oh dear. Let's see. This was, I think the March is the typo because the 210 Cedar Mountain public hearing was in fact at the April meeting, as was Mr. LaCapra's application.
Yeah.
So I think we would just need to correct the date at the top of the page. And I don't mean to be scrolling too fast if people are trying to read. This
I'm
was,
looking at my own local version.
okay. Very clearly, this is all the business we had discussed last month. I think Pat just
Yeah,
might have
I agree.
had a typo.
Tom Mueller, I make a motion to accept the minutes as presented, except correcting the date in the header.
Is there a second to the motion?
Elizabeth Jameson, second.
Any discussion on the motion? Tom Mueller, how do you vote?
Tom Mueller, aye.
Joe Hartz, how do you vote?
Joe Hartz, I am abstaining. I was not at the meeting.
Oh, that's right. Elizabeth Jameson, how do you vote?
Elizabeth Jameson, aye.
And Ralph Salone also votes aye. So the motion is approved with one abstention. Let's see, under old business, we have draft amendments to erosion and sedimentation controls, and addition of low impact development, stormwater management regs required per the MS4 general permit. Stacy, is there anything new on that we need to talk about
Nope.
today?
We were just keeping that on as a place saver for when we get back to in-person meetings.
Okay, which should be next month, right?
I believe so. The executive order is likely to lapse towards the end of May. So I'm thinking we are going to be going back to in-person as of June.
Okay, and when we do that, let's make it in person only. Let's not try to do a hybrid. That was the one or two times we did that was awful
It was
tough.
painful. Yes, I wholeheartedly agree.
All right, let's see. Draft number 2 under old business, draft regulation amendments for commercial vehicles, signs, solar, detached accessory apartments, etc. Anything new there that we want to talk about?
No, I think most of those were a place saver as well. Signs, there might be able to be some conversation on. It doesn't necessarily need to be tonight.
Okay.
But the rest of the items, I think we fleshed out. We're just waiting for a public hearing.
All right, under new business, we have discussion of possible recreational marijuana moratorium.
Yes.
So, just for everybody that's tuned in, I guess it really looks like the state is going to approve the recreational use of marijuana. And currently, our regs only cover the medical uses, and we do want to talk about things like placement and hours of operation and stuff like that. And I think to give us enough time to do that, we probably want to look at enacting a short moratorium. And Stacy has drafted some language up for us.
I actually can't take credit. It was entirely from Attorney Byrne. Let me
Okay.
just. He's using it elsewhere, so it was very easy for him to forward it on to us. Hang on one second. Here we go. There's just one or two minor typos in there that we would need to correct, but for that, it would do exactly what we would need it to do. We would want to just add it in. I had consulted with Attorney Byrne as to whether it should go together with the palliative regulations, and this should be separate. So this, whatever is the next number in line, 22, 12 or 13, I believe is the next number in line. That would be where we would put this. And he recommended a 6-month moratorium, which could always be extended if we wanted it to be. Courts have historically not looked favorably if we tried to do a years-long moratorium, like a year-long moratorium or anything like that. They would prefer to see something like 6 months, and then if we needed to go back and have another 6 months, do it that way. So that would be the duration we'd probably be looking at, is a 6-month moratorium. The reason for this is because obviously things could change. Nothing is official. It hasn't been voted on yet. But general consensus is that this is going to go through pretty much largely as is. And as it's written now, if we do not take any action, then anywhere we allow retail and sales, we'd also have to allow the recreational marijuana facilities. Obviously,
Which is right next to schools.
Exactly. So hence having this in place when the bill, assuming it becomes law, we have the time necessary to figure out where exactly is the best place in town and where is not the best place in town. So that would be the reason to do this. And so we would add this on when we choose to do all of the public hearings that we want to do.
So, I think an important distinction here is the difference between a dispensary facility and
Yes.
a regular retailer, manufacturer, blah, blah, blah. Do you want to just talk a couple of minutes about that?
Yeah, dispensaries are for medical marijuana. Patients, there's a process that people have to go through under a doctor's care in order to receive marijuana for medicinal purposes, and the places where they can be grown and the places where they can purchase them are all regulated by the state. There's a finite number of these facilities.
And it's very tightly regulated.
Yes, it is. And this regulation does not pertain to that. This regulation that the state is looking at pertains to the sale for recreational, non-medicinal purposes. Growing for again, recreational purposes. It also includes those who might be using it in products that they make, like baking or any sort of like essential oils and stuff. Anything that where anybody could be manufacturing something that uses marijuana in it for other than medicinal purposes. So that is part of the moratorium that we're looking at is going to include this regulation pretty much as Attorney Byrne has written. And it's going to specifically say that anything that meets the definition of a cannabis establishment, which is actually defined in the bill as it currently stands, is not permitted at this time for 6 months while we review and consider.
And the couple of typos that you were alluded to earlier, where are they?
Let's see.
I know they're all
Oh,
on
here
page
we go.
1.
Yeah, here. If the municipality does not amend its regulations to address this use, then cannabis establishments will be deemed a permitted use in those zoning districts where retail and commercial embellishments, obviously it's not embellishments, it's establishment.
Yeah. Why don't you make that change right now?
This is actually a PDF he sent to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is what I got from him, and then I sent to you, and I actually had made that correction there. Hang on one moment. Let me see if I can find it. This one I got.
Oh, yeah, the
here.
one you sent to us
Yeah,
says establishments. Yeah.
yeah. Let me see if I can find it. I just pulled that one. I got that one quicker. Let's see. Here we go. And where did it go? Okay, yeah, this is the one I sent around to you, and as you can see, it's not an embellishment anymore. Commercial establishments are also permitted.
Was that the only issue?
It was the embellishment was the bigger one. So yeah, those typos are corrected in this version. So I took his draft language, changed the embellishment to establishment, and whatever the other one typo was, I fixed that. And this is what's before you. There's a space here for the duration of the moratorium. So whatever we fill in here will be 6 months from the date you adopt it.
Stacy,
Yes,
under section for definitions,
yes.
what is a delivery 19 service?
19 is probably the page of the bill, so we'll get rid of that.
Okay.
But yes, that's also something that would be permitted under the bill is delivery services delivering the product. Oop, what happened there? There we go. It was a very extensive bill because there's tentacles of this into a variety of things in terms of sales tax and ordinances, for use of it at public places, etc.
So just maybe to echo what Stacy said a little bit, the purpose of a moratorium like this is to give us the chance to adequately plan and review for these things, these services, or these facilities to be appropriately placed in the town. And since we have no particular regulations that govern them now, we would want to put a moratorium on them for a little while so that we did have time to discuss and decide what's best for Thomaston.
And ultimately, the commission may very well find it appropriate to do something in terms of a separation distance, much like you do for liquor establishments. I think there's several people who are different towns who are considering something to that effect as a way of ensuring that it's, certain things in town are not located right next door. But that is something to determine and decide with more time for debate and review than we have right now. And it gives us a little breathing space because the regulation that they're currently considering could change, so planning based on this, we could be all set and then something changes and then we're not ready. So the 6 months gives us a little breathing space to see what the final bill is, what the guidance is going to be that comes down from the state on how to enact this, and for us to choose where in town and how we best want to review a proposal for this.
So, and I would propose that we enact it as a 6-month moratorium. That brings us all the way out to November, and the session ends in the summer. So, we can expect a final version. I think we can expect a final version by then, and that would give us what 5-ish, 4-ish months to work on it. And if that proves not to be enough time, we can always extend the moratorium.
Yeah, I think we'll have more time and we'll have a better idea of what we're dealing with at that point, because after the bill is passed, then there's going to be, certain state agencies would be tasked to come up with some guidance documents for the towns. So it gives us time to see what those are going to say, et cetera.
So what do you all think? Joe, comments?
I was curious as to who's, first of all, I think it's a good idea. We're not saying no, we're just saying give us time to carve out a plan. Did the Board of Selectmen review this, or did this come from town government, or is this just?
No, this is just, as you guys know, I've been following several bills at the state level and talking with our attorney about them as they've moved around. And so our conversation included Senate Bill 888. And I have advised the first selectman that you guys were probably going to consider a moratorium while we figured this out.
And this is within our domain, and not.
Yep.
Okay. Good. I think it's a good idea. I don't have any questions, Ralph.
How about you, Liz? Anything?
I have nothing to add. This is a totally new area to me.
Again, it's only, it's a temporary stop to anything happening in town.
No, I'm for the moratorium, so I have no opinion in general.
But you're right. It's a little new to all of us.
Yeah, it's a brave new world.
So it gives us time to educate ourselves too. Tom, what do you think?
Well, I think we need to do that. I do have one question though.
Okay.
Would it be possible or allowed to start a moratorium on the date when or if the state regulations and law go into effect? So we basically know what we're dealing with.
To have the 6 months start at that point?
Yes.
I believe so. If the timing of everything with your public hearing and everything else lines up, I believe so. Because obviously we need to have the public hearing and adhere to the noticing requirements, which again, now that we're going back off of the executive orders, are probably going to more or less go back to what they were before. So we have to adhere to all of that, and then the legal noticing afterward and the review time for the COG and everything kicks in. But I believe we could, if that was my desire to get a draft to you now, so we could conceivably have a public hearing at June if you were so inclined, and go from there.
Tom, I think it's more prudent to enact the moratorium as soon as possible, because remember, without the moratorium, any Joe can show up and put in an application to put up a retail operation, next to wherever they want in any commercial zone. And we would have to act on it. So I think it's probably to our benefit to enact the moratorium sooner rather than later. And like I said earlier, we can always extend it if we don't have enough time to do everything we need to do.
I understand your comment, but how could any establishment put in an application for something that does not yet exist in the state?
That as of that date, I have already been contacted to ask what the town's feeling is on this. I have already been contacted by distributors looking to find out what the regulations for the town are.
Okay.
And I just wanted to, if I could also at this point, Ralph, I apologize, Jessica, I didn't see you in the meeting until now. I just wanted to introduce you to the rest of the commission. Jessica is your newest alternate, and you now have a complete slate. So I see her now, and I wanted to make sure you were aware.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jessica. I didn't know who you were. Welcome aboard. We haven't scared you off yet, have we?
We can't hear you.
Welcome, Jessica.
Geez, I would have seated you at the beginning of the meeting had I known.
I'm sorry,
Oh, well.
I didn't see you either. The list, and you're still muted, so we can't hear you. But yeah, the list of
Oh my
attendees.
God, couldn't unmute it and it was right at the bottom. No, I'm glad you didn't seat me because I'm getting my feet wet. This meeting, I was listening and observing, so.
She's already come in, picked up her copy of the regs. She's good to go. So again, hopefully we didn't scare you off.
No, not at all.
All right, so it's been a long time since we did a moratorium. And Joe, I know you're going to ask this question. Let me see if I ask it for you first. We have done this in the past.
Yes.
The last one was that I remember anyways, was a moratorium on adult entertainment establishments.
You also did one for the palliative marijuana as well.
Oh, I forgot all about that. One thing I definitely do not remember is does this require a public hearing?
Yes, it does.
All right. So why doesn't someone make a motion to propose this moratorium for 6 months and set the public hearing for our June meeting, and
that would be June 2nd.
We'll have a real live in-person meeting, and we can have a real public hearing.
Tom Mueller, so moved.
Thanks, Tom. Is there a second?
Joe Hart, second.
Thanks, Joe. Any discussion? Tom, how do you vote?
Tom Mueller, aye.
Joe, how do you vote?
Joe Hart's aye.
Elizabeth Jameson, how do you vote?
Elizabeth Jameson, aye.
And Ralph Salone also votes aye, so that motion carries unanimously. So
Okay.
6 months, Stacy, and we'll do the public hearing in June.
Okay.
Let me see. So that was all that was listed under new business, but you mentioned to me that there was a sign.
Yes, we have a gentleman who has applied on behalf of one of the tenants at 76 Watertown Road for a sign permit. It's a section of the building that didn't previously have signage. Hang on one second.
So we would have to amend the agenda to look at that. And since we're under new business, I guess now would be the time to do that. If we were going to do that.
Tom Mueller, I make a motion to amend the agenda to include the new, potentially new signage at 76 Watertown Road.
Is there a second to the motion?
Elizabeth Jameson, second.
Any discussion on the motion? Tom Mueller, how do you vote?
Tom Mueller, aye.
Joe Hartz, how do you vote?
Joe Hart's aye.
And Elizabeth Jameson, how do you vote?
Elizabeth Jameson, aye.
And Ralph Sloan also votes aye. So the motion to amend the agenda carries unanimously.
Mr. Schaller, you can unmute yourself if you.
Okay.
Thanks
Aye.
for being patient.
Sure thing.
Okay, I received the site plan application for Mr. Schaller on behalf of Daryl Maslek, the owner of 76 Watertown Road. The proposal I had up just momentarily, and let me put it back up. Hang on. Is for signage. This is on the second floor at the back of the building for Edward Jones. And Mr. Schaller provided a mock-up of what it will look like. As you can see, this is the frontage, and the total area of the sign is just within the same size as is permitted by the linear feet of the frontage.
And this is a site plan approval, so it does not require a public hearing, correct?
It does not.
Questions, comments, concerns from the commission members?
Will the sign be lighted?
Yes, it will be internally lit. They're channel letters. And so just the letters themselves will light.
Mhm. Thank you.
Mhm.
Anything else from anyone?
So I do believe it meets the regulations. I would have gone and signed off on it, but my understanding is the approval for 76 Watertown Road required any of the, anytime one of the units becomes occupied and has signage for the first time, it needed to come back to the commission for a site plan approval. So hence Mr. Schaller being here for you.
So what do you think, folks? We can approve, deny, or modify. That's really all we can do.
I think the sign looks really good.
Thank you.
Ralph, are you saying that we can make a motion to approve this?
Yep.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve the sign as shown on the site plan for 76 Watertown Road in Thomaston.
Unit 2C.
Unit 2C.
Thanks. Is there a second to the motion?
Elizabeth
Mueller,
Jameson, second.
Mhm.
She beat you, Tom.
That's okay.
All right, a motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, Tom Mueller, how do you vote?
Tom Mueller, aye.
Joe Hartz, how do you vote?
Joe Hart's aye.
Elizabeth Jamison, how do you vote?
Elizabeth Jameson, I.
And Ralph Salone also votes aye, so the motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Is there anything further I need to do at this point to continue with the signage production?
You'll get a letter from us, from our office confirming this. You might want to check in with the building official and see what he's going to need from you.
Okay, very good. Will do. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Let's see. I didn't get a chance to read the CEO report that you sent earlier today.
Okay.
Are there any highlights that we need to know about?
I guess the main thing to know is well, obviously the Hickory Hill Road construction project has started. That's not the issue. The material is being transported to a property on Bayberry, and there have been complaints and ongoing issues that I hope are now rectified in terms of the trucks coming down the road onto Bayberry at excessive speed, and with the covers not over the load, so a lot of material has been deposited in the street. Making
That contractor is gonna
yes
clean up after himself, right?
Yes, and I had met with him and discussed this, and then I called him another time, and then ultimately the first selectman and the supervisor of public works also met with him on site, and we have an engineer we're working with to pretty much be the GC for the whole project, and he also contacted them. I think we've got it resolved at this point.
And I'm sure that if they don't
We will
adhere to
hear
what
it.
they're supposed to do, the neighbors are gonna let us know, yeah.
I have no doubt. Yeah.
Okay. Anything other,
The
any other
only
burning issues?
The only other question for my edification is, does the commission, and I don't know that you necessarily want to debate it at this point, but for my own edification, what is the commission's position on Airbnb? Because we do now have one in Thomaston. It doesn't fit under the traditional definition of a bed and breakfast because it doesn't, as most Airbnbs do not, it does not serve breakfast.
Well, what's the second B stand for?
I know, I hear you. So my question is, how, if you wish to have that handled, the property in question, I'm already going to have to reach out to them as they have apparently a second accessory apartment.
Well, how do we handle,
So if I'm going to be contacting them, and this is something the commission is concerned about, then I just as soon mention everything in one letter.
I don't know about you guys, and ladies, but I'm kind of beat. And I would like to discuss this a little more thoroughly before we do anything.
Okay.
Can we just make it an agenda item for the next meeting?
Absolutely. And those are probably the main things at this point.
Is there anything that we need to go into executive session for?
I do have an update letter from Attorney Byrne. I don't know that there's any great big new item on there to discuss, but I do have an update letter from him if you wanted to see it.
I had an emergency, just sorry to butt in. I had an emergency babysitting job to do today, so I can't go into executive session because I'm not alone at the moment. So I'll excuse myself for the rest of the meeting, if that's okay.
Yes, it is.
All right, is that right?
No problem.
You have a quorum still, right?
Still, yeah.
Okay. If you're gonna go into executive session, I'm gonna excuse myself.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Hey, since Elizabeth is leaving, why don't we seat Jesse?
We certainly could.
Even though she didn't want to be. I forgot her last name though.
LaRusso, right? Or did I say that wrong? Oh dear.
It's
We lost-
LaRusso. It's
Okay.
LaRusso.
Okay, so since Elizabeth left, we'll see Jesse LaRusso for Elizabeth.
Oh, God.
And would somebody please make a motion to go into executive session and invite in Stacy?
Tom Mueller, so moved.
Second to that?
Joe Hart, second.
Thanks. Any discussion? Tom, how do you vote?
Tom Mueller, aye.
Joe, how do you vote?
Joe Hart's aye.
Jesse, how do you vote?
Jessica LaRusso, aye.
And Ralph Salone also votes aye. So we'll go into executive session. So the motion carried at 8:47 p.m. unanimously. We'll go into executive session as soon as